Yo, guys, we have to have an honest conversation about music production YouTube, specifically music production YouTube. Producer community on YouTube is really strong. However, there are some downsides to just watching tutorial after tutorial after tutorial. Don't mind me, I'm out of shape. I haven't cut my hair. I'm just all scruffy. But I have strong opinions on this because, including myself, I'm in this mix of, producers who teach online. So for example, a lot of people talk about tutorial hell, which is like, okay, it's gotten so bad on YouTube when you type in FL Studio tutorial that it's like add, this guy plugging a sound pack, add, this guy taking stuff way out of context, add. It's like everybody is just like out for themselves. There's no genuine information. And I can understand this because as a beginner, you want to know the things that actually get you results. Like, for example, if I teach you how to take this basic F major chord and then revoice it to sound more jazzy like this, it's a simple, straightforward technique on how to do that. And I taught that in a matter of minutes. But you'll watch a tutorial. It's like, okay, once you learn F major, then you have to learn what the 3 is and the 2 is and the 2nd and the 5th. And you have to learn what this is versus this. And it's like they're teaching you all this stuff to try to pad their YouTube videos. And we see it. Like, we know that YouTube pays after 8 minutes of video. So the video, when it's like 8 minutes and 10 seconds, they just recorded just enough to get beyond that line. And I don't want to demonize YouTubers because they put in a lot of hard work. I do think there is a lot of filler, however, on YouTube because people are just trying to get you to watch longer. They're not trying to actually educate you. And that's the issue. It's like, okay, I could teach you how to go from this chord, for example, and then to our F major chord. And then let's do C dominant or C chord here, E dominant, and then back to the minor. Okay, I could teach you that, but you'll be watching videos like, especially the ones I hate are copy and paste videos. Man, I got to be honest. Anybody who's teaching copy and paste, like, here's what this person did exactly. Here's what this person did exactly. There's one way to go about it, which is like, here's the technique that they used. But when it's like literally just tracing some other producer, I'm not saying it's wrong, because that is what people seek up. Like, how did Michael Jackson make Thriller? How did so-and-so make this? I get that part. But when it's literally just tracing in your tutorial, like you remade the beat and you're like, okay, here's where to place your kick. Place it exactly here, like exactly where they placed it. But there's no concepts being learned. It's just like trace. That's kind of like, is it really teaching people at that point? But here's the, another conundrum is, as a beginner, we'll watch tutorial after tutorial and it's not your fault. It's because YouTube is built to keep people engaged and keep people on the platform. It's not really built to have you walk away and go to your DAW and go, okay, now I know how to play, this big chord here, or this chord here, or this Neptune's chord. No, that's not necessarily YouTube's goal. YouTube's goal is to entertain you and keep you on the platform, which is it makes sense. They have advertisements. They have an advertisement business. So YouTubers, they have to align with the company to keep you on the platform. And how do they keep you on the platform? They teach you a bunch of stuff you don't really need to know, stuff that is not even really important in the music production journey. I could show you at least 10 videos. If I searched up YouTube FL Studio tutorial, I could probably show you 20 techniques people show you that I've never used in FL Studio. I've been teaching this thing for 14 years and it's not their fault. I'm just saying to you, this is the struggle that you guys have, is trying to sift through all this, people just trying to add filler over filler over filler. And because you're a beginner, you don't even know what to know. So you have no idea of what to pay attention to and what is a waste of time. And that is what I call, or what is called, tutorial hell in this case, where it's just like passive learning and just video after video, but they're teaching you a lot of things that actually don't give you real life results. I'll give you guys a quick example. I study AI, for example. And I'm like, yeah, open Claude is cool. Claude is cool, but like, how do you use it for your business? Nobody ever had an answer. They always show you, hey, it can clean up your desktop. It can, remind you on your calendar. I'm like, that doesn't add value to my business. Where are the business solutions with this AI stuff? And only a couple people really had real business results. Julian, Corbin, for example, and some other dude, I forgot his name. But it's like a very few people actually have information that will get you a result. A lot of people are just giving you information, but it doesn't correlate to a result. And that's what brings about the frustration as a beginner. And then you start to demonize tutorials, like tutorials are a waste of time because of the culture incentivized to keep you on a platform longer. So is it the tutorial person's fault? Not necessarily. Is it the beginner's fault that they're watching all these tutorials? Not necessarily. But I think it's not really nobody's fault. It's just the nature of life. When there's a high supply, you have to go through the supply to find the gold. And hopefully the gold stands out more and more. But that's why I rely on you guys who are watching these videos. Share with your friends. Without you sharing to your friend, I have to basically wait for somebody to search onto YouTube, BusyWorks Beats FL Studio tutorial. You know, by the time they learn about BusyWorks Beats, they're already 3 years in, 2 years in, 1 year in, and they're already kind of in tutorial hell already. So the way you save people is tell them, go to busyworksbeats.com or just go to the youtube.com/busyworksbeats. I have made something for free at busyworksbeats.com/betterbeatmaker. This is the fastest path from going from knowing nothing to learning how to make beats. Okay, we cover music theory, stuff like this. Now, are you going to be an expert at piano, tomorrow? Not necessarily. But here's another big mistake I just thought of. This is a beginner mistake, is they'll go into YouTube seeking out, how to make metro booming melodies, how to make, I don't even know, murder beats drums, how to mix like, Mike Dean. And it's like, I understand that's what gets people in the door. But as a beginner, what you may not comprehend is that the tutorial will be only based around tracing or very contextual information. So here's another kind of thing. It's called paint by numbers, for example. Like a lot of YouTubers, especially on shorts, they'll say always boost it. Anytime you hear always or never, it's the false information. Okay. Like always turn up 10K, always turn down 300. No, there is no always in creative works. I could guarantee you the guys that always use a high pass filter. No, like that's where the meat of the song is in the low end. So long story short is you have to understand context. And when you're learning random melody stuff, like, just playing, sometimes they don't even know the music theory, which I'm not demonizing people, but I just want you guys to understand. They don't know how to say, okay, play a raised third. They'll just say, play these notes or lock in your scale lock or lock in your scale highlighting. It's like, no, if you do scale highlighting, for example, the paint by numbers approach, you're going to basically trick yourself out of all the dope chords. Like, for example, if I stayed in the scale, I just play this. What if I wanted to play something very gospely or like with a tritone substitution? I went out of key at least twice. Okay. So staying in scale locking is going to keep you guys stuck. And I know that's taught on a beginner level, but a lot of people don't understand the consequences of people teaching that way. I had to unlearn it myself. So I'm not here to demonize tutorial people. Anybody sharing information is a wonderful thing. I always want to say that first. But a lot of people are doing this. They're basically selling disguised as education. It's not real education. So for example, they'll say, okay, if you want to make a yeet type beat, always use chordal harmony. So I taught people chordal harmony, for example, which is a jazz theory approach where you take a root note, you count up 5 notes, and then you play this note down an octave. And that creates the yeet sound. All right, so that's called chordal harmony. It's actually jazz theory. So when people tell you don't need music theory, I'm going, yes, you do. That's actually in jazz theory. Jazz is like one of the highest levels of music theory. And the fact that Yeat is using one of the highest levels of music theory in his music is very ironic. And it explains why, because Benny X was behind a lot of his dope sound. And Benny X is a super talented music producer. So the paint by numbers thing, as much as, people think stuff is random, there is not always a randomness to it. There's a science behind it. And I teach the science. I teach you guys the how, the why, so that you can understand how to create the pattern for yourself instead of saying, okay, I'm just going to pick some random notes and just do random stuff with it. Like, that's not the greatest way to go into music. I'm not telling you guys what to do. I think there's definitely a part where we can separate experimentation from actual intent and trying to produce and translate ideas versus just experimentation. I think during experimentation in the lab, this is where we can just do stuff we would never do. Like, I might do this. Rarely do I know about, E minor 7 flat 5 chords. I rarely use that, but now I have a new tool, in my arsenal. If I need to do like a chord loop. Okay, so there's different things you can learn over time. Now, here's the one that's tricky, is that when people put up video tutorials disguised as education, but it's really just a sales pitch. Here's how you'll know. As soon as they start the video, hey guys, welcome to busyworksbeats.com. All right, let's start off with my loop pack, my new sound suite pack, busyworksbeats.com/sounds. I want you guys to start with only these sounds, the Blueprint XL sounds. We're going to start with these sounds specifically. It's like, I get it, we have to market our stuff. But when stuff is marketed as like free beginners tutorial or how to do X, Y, Z, and it's like really just a sales pitch the whole time using their loop pack, it's kind of like dilutes the message a little bit. And the question becomes, do we actually walk away with education, or did we just learn how to use somebody's sound pack? And this is going to be another angle on this, is I don't want to demonize tutorial makers, but when you guys learn at Real Studios, for example, here's the thing I was always confused about at Real Studios, dark music. Is it's like, yeah, we can learn the console at the studio, and I can learn about the freaking $60,000 console I'll never have at my home studio. But when I go home, I'm not using the API console. I'm not using the little thing in the wall that has all the cables, the XLR cables. I'm not using that at home. Like, I'm not using outboard gear racked up at home. I'm using the plug-in version. Now, it may give you a little information about what it sounds like, but in terms of learning from a real studio, it's like, when am I ever going to be using half of this stuff ever? And that's the issue, is that you don't realize when you go to a real studio to learn, yeah, you may pick up a couple concepts here and there, but really you're just learning how to work in that space to become an engineer at that specific space. You're not necessarily learning signal flow necessarily. You may pick up a couple things here and there, but you're just learning their gear, their microphones, you're learning their rooms, their different, what do they call them? Gobos. It's like you're learning that space. It's a very different thing than learning music production. So the classic, hey, I need to intern at a music studio. It's like, unless you plan to become a recording engineer or just working at a studio, that specific studio, you can probably learn more online. If I had to really just give you guys a reality check, I'm not telling you guys how to go about your life. I'm just saying that is just, I've done it before. I've learned from a real studio, and it's just like, when am I ever going to apply this knowledge? But Twitter has this, especially in AI Twitter, they'll be like, Shopify is dead. And then you read the thread, you read it all the way through thinking that there's some breakthrough in AI. And then it's like, shipper.com is the new, it's just like, man, they're just plugging their dumb website. And that's what I think is happening on YouTube to some degree, is when people position stuff as education, but really it's just showing off their thing. And you can't walk away with any actual tangible skills. And again, like I said, this is what separates just bland information from information that gets you results. And that's what requires wisdom and experience. I've been doing this for 14 years. We've trained over 1 million producers around the world. Some have gone to work with Drake, Kanye West, Post Malone, Ariana Grande, French Montana, Young Thug, Polo G, Trippie Redd, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, Glorilla. We have 3 confirmed Grammy winners and multi-platinum plaque winning producers. So the stuff we teach gets people results. There's a lot of information on YouTube. Does it get people results? Where are the successful students from all these YouTube tutorial people? I don't know. I've never seen it. I'm not saying people don't help other people. I don't ever want to put that message out, and I don't ever want to discourage anybody from making tutorials, because you have to start somewhere. I just think that there's too much self-focus and not enough actual skills being translated to the viewer. So the viewer starts to become resentful against tutorial makers, because they're like, why watch another tutorial when it's just going to be another pitch fest? I don't know if you guys have ever gone to like a business seminar. But oh my goodness, I went to Tony Robbins' business seminar one time in Atlanta. 5,000, 10,000 people there. It was dope. It was freezing cold. It was dope to be there. Very good energy. Tony Robbins, definitely delivered an energetic experience. However, the other speakers that came there, their job is to get new customers. So what do they do the whole time for 30 minutes to an hour? They just talk about their product and their service and their coaching program and their thing. It's just like a big old pitch fest, they call it, which is just like, I came here, I spent $100 per day to learn something, to learn a skill, to walk away with something tangible, not to be sold to. And that's usually, that's starting to happen a little bit more than usual on YouTube, and people are picking up on it, and I mean, again, there's no wrong or right thing. It's just, you guys will notice in the comments. I'll just leave the comments open for you guys to chat about that. Now, the next thing, okay, is here's the tricky part about learning music production, is tutorials give you a blueprint for a very specific outcome, unless, and there's a caveat here, unless they give you a skill that is a fundamental skill. So for example, if I teach you music theory, let me show you guys an app I was working on. Like this is our chord codes app that rolled out to the black box bundle owners at busyworksbeats.com/black. It teaches you any chord with my proprietary chord code system. And basically I could teach anybody chords in under a minute. So I'll show you guys how to do this. Like for example, there's a difference in learning a skill versus just learning a copy and paste method for that specific song. So for example, I could teach you guys chords knowing nothing about music theory. For example, I have here a major chord. If you want to learn how to make a major chord, you hit create. It shows you guys the notes for the actual chord. And you could say, okay, I'm playing C, E, and G. That plays the major chord. So that's called 047. We teach chord codes. 0 is the root note in this case, wherever you start. Okay, and then you count up 4 notes from here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 5, 6, 7, 0, 4, 7 always creates the major chord all of the time. Okay, so there's different chord codes in here. We have this all mapped out for you guys, like minor ninth chords. You want to learn a minor ninth chord, you could change out the root note here, for example. So if I start at D, I'm in the wrong octave. So here's D, we're gonna play F. It says A, C, and E. And now I have, and you could also switch the octave here, so we don't have to be in this specific octave. Let's go up an octave. Here we have the ninth chord. So now I know what a ninth chord actually is. That's a skill. That's a fundamental building block in music production. So when I'm teaching you guys tutorials and skills around this chord code system, it's giving you a fundamental thing that you can go in 1,000 different directions with. So for example, you could play this. Let me clear the screen so you guys can see. We can play D minor 9. We can play E minor 7 flat 5 to the diminished 7th, back to D. Okay, so it's rotating and looping. Okay, this even has jazz theory. So if I play an altered chord, it will show as an altered chord, which is in E dominant 7 sharp 5 sharp 9. All right, so you can learn these really complex chords, and not only the chords, it shows you the voicing. All right, so here it shows you, okay, if we were to play this chord, once you learn chord codes, it doesn't just give you the chord code 0, 4, 7, 11, it gives you the voicing. So it shows you we're playing that 13th in the bass, so it's F to D. We're playing the 9th in the left hand. Okay, and then we're playing the major 3rd, perfect 5th, in the major 7th in the right hand. So it's showing you how to voice chords. This is a whole different concept. And this is where you get into the next layer of music theory, which is chord voicing. So I could play F major this way, 0, 4, 7, 11, 14 straight out, or I could play it this way, which is a more jazz-like, more lush way to play it. So when you learn these skills, I guess my point is when you learn these skills, and this is included, the black box bundle owners get this first. They get all our plugins first. So just go to busyworksbeats.com/black to become a black box bundle owner. And this is a standalone app. All right. And I think we offered the plugin. Don't quote me, guys, but it's a standalone. It works better as a standalone app, in my opinion. Now, some people could consider what I just did a sales pitch. What I just did was to show you, I demonstrated a point with facts, and then I gave you a solution that's tied to the fact. That could be considered selling in a way. The difference is I gave you a real skill that you could walk away with. I gave you value before I even talked about my thing. I even showed you the value using my thing to show you that my thing actually creates value. It's not just this random tip. And then I'm talking about my loop pack. That's the difference between people who are using their videos as sales pitches versus people who are educating, in my opinion. Okay, this is just my opinion. But that's the difference, is how many people can walk away with real skills. They just learned how to make a major chord, and you learned about chord voicing in a matter of a couple minutes if I wasn't going so slow. Okay. And I showed you guys about chord codes, for example, a quicker way to get into music theory, for example. So that's a good example, in my opinion, of, yes, I do have a product that solves a problem, but it's not a sales pitch to where it's like, okay, guys, we're going to use this loop pack today, and I'm going to chop it and try to demonstrate it and act as if this is a tutorial, but it's really not a tutorial. So I think this next point, when people, say that basically following tutorials is like everybody's going to be following the same tutorial, getting the same result, that can be applied to some specific things. If you're going to learn, for example, how to make a Bones type beat, and they use all these random things, right? And then you're like, okay, that's how you make trap beats, I guess. So you make your trap beats that way. But it's such a random approach where it's just like a bunch of random stuff. That's not how all of trap beats are made. It's just that specific type of trap beat. And I think that can lock people into a very specific approach to music production. However, we have to remember that people get into music for all different reasons. Some people love jazz, some people love R&B, some people love pop, some people love country. So I don't think there's a wrong way to get into music. I just think that what people have an issue with as a viewer of our tutorials is basically they think that following a tutorial will lead to some boxed outcome because of the greater culture. They're not giving them skills. They're selling their product all the time. So if you walk away with a skill to know, okay, I know how to voice this specific chord, I don't have to do it with just this chord. I could do it with a lot of chords. Like, for example, once you learn about dominant chords, this can be applied to much of anything. So I can go here to A. Okay, I can go from here to B. You guys can't see the notes, but the point is, once you learn about dominant to tonic, you can apply it to a lot of stuff. It's not like you have to use this specific preset with this specific setting and the specific melody that goes. It's not like this super specific thing. It's a building block. And I think, again, there's a difference in the teachers on YouTube. And again, everybody has to learn over time. So I don't expect everybody to be a PhD in music theory. But yeah, I think we still need room to learn the basics. I think there is a time for happy accidents in the lab, okay, when we're experimenting. But, the fundamental building blocks of music production are always going to be the same: music theory, mixing, and arrangement. And I teach that at busyworksbeats.com/premium. If you skip the basics, getting to the complexity is going to be half impossible. It's like missing pieces of your house. Like, the house is going to fall apart. And, when we miss the fundamental building blocks, complexity is simplicity multiplied. So if you're trying to get to a complex thing like, Metro Boomin melodies, but you skipped over basic harmony, you skipped over the Phrygian mode, okay, when you skip the basics, my 7-note system on how to create melodies, I teach that as well. I just made a video recently about 3 ways to make melodies. So my point is, there is a way where you guys can watch very specific stuff and get stuck, but there's also the side that teaches the fundamentals, and that's what I aim to teach over and over and over again. I don't care how boring it is to some people if you think you're so advanced, but you don't even know the basics. I don't care if people think I only talk to beginners. I'd rather impact the entire world than talk to this many people for something super specific. And that's usually the missing block for even the advanced producers. They'll come to me about the most basic thing. They'll think they know something, but they really don't know that thing. But yeah, ultimately there's a lot of videos. And again, it's because we're trying to create more content to get a greater reach. So I'm not demonizing people who make tutorials, but when people focus on micro details, like something so specific that only happened one time, it's like, what are we actually making videos for in that case? I think, but again, there's a balance. There's a balance of what people expect versus what we deliver. There's a balance of, the content creator getting bored about what they're talking about, so they switch it up. So this last point really isn't a strong point. It's just more so an observation that a lot of tutorials focus on the minutia, and a lot of that minutia does not bring you results. So if you want results, go to busyworksbeats.com/premium, sign up for your 14-day free trial. So see how I did that? I offered value way in advance. Okay. I even gave you value during me demonstrating my own solutions to the problem. Okay. That's how you guys should be able to communicate. Not this like, okay, today we're going to use our loop pack and only this loop pack. I'm going to show you how to flip this loop pack a way that I normally wouldn't do, but because I need a video, I'm going to show you how to do it. Like, again, I'm not criticizing the greater market. I'm just pointing out stuff that's super obvious. But I think these are the things and the reasons why people look down on tutorials as if they don't really do much. And, we need to change the culture to want to help each other. So instead of just making this a pitch fest, let's try to add more value and get to the fundamental building blocks. All right, y'all. Subscribe if you're new. It's game for busyworksbeats.com. Peace out, guys.